Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What Do You Say Anime. I am your host, Peter, and on today's episode, the gang and I will be reviewing the 2016 cult classic Drifters. Joining me today, my co-host, lovely co-host with so much things to say, Johnny. Johnny, how's it going?
Yes, well, this time I actually have some stuff to say because, as you all know, I'm 12 years old. Now, since it's June, I no longer have school, so that's a win for me.
Yep.
And also, I got a haircut because, it's been 2 months since I got one, and I started to look like Shadow the Hedgehog. So I had to get that change sorted out. And yeah, so about Drifters, I'm going to say a lot about the show afterwards, but I just want to say this is the second anime I've seen that's had Nazis in it, so that's interesting.
And congratulations for graduating 6th grade, Johnny. Joining us
Thank
as
you.
our other co-host, we got Kat. Kat, how's it going?
What's up? I'm doing all right. I've actually got something to say. It's been God knows how long since I've actually had something to say. So, Drifters has been a ride, and I've concluded that this is a slightly better version of the show that I completely detest, called Baki. And honestly, when I thought about it just by itself, it was hard to suffer through. And then I remembered I can watch Baki, and then the rest of the show just kind of passed by so easily. But yeah, that's all for me.
Yeah, it's not Baki, so it's bad. It's not bad. Joining us, I believe this is the second time we have Fire Rifle. Rifle, how's it going, buddy?
Doing real good, especially with this show.
Yes, Rifle is the one who his pressure was the one that made me want to nominate it. Also, I wanted to nominate the show because I thought it was getting a second season. It was confirmed for a second season, and that tweet has since been deleted. So we'll see if it gets a second season. But our first moderator of the night, we have Mr. Miles himself. Miles, how's it going?
How's it going? As Mr. Prob said in the 14th overall on the Billboard Hot 100 chart song from 2013, Waves. I'm slowly drifting away. And I wish Drifters would drift away from my memory. But sadly, I think we're stuck with it.
We're slowly drifting away, wave after wave. Beautiful,
Wave
Miles.
after wave.
I'm slowly drifting. And our second and last moderator of the night, the starting point guard for the San Antonio Spurs, Mr. Patty Mills himself. Pat, how's it going?
Oh, we're going back to this bit. All right, yeah, it's good.
Are you not Patty
off-season-
Mills anymore?
Well, no, it stopped for a few weeks, I thought. I know the off-season's been good. I've been training hard, just getting ready to play that basketball, as all the basketball players say.
That's what they say in basketball. Yep.
Fans. Yep. Well, I mean, I would know out of anyone here. So, but yeah, no, I'm good. Drifters was a show that I wish I enjoyed more of. Or I wish I enjoyed more, but considering the topic matter is like my jam. But I don't know, I just could not stop thinking like, oh wow, this is like worse Fate in my eyes. I was just like, I don't know, and I'm not even the biggest Fate fan either. So there we go. But yeah, so I guess and last of course we got Pete himself ready to host us and talk us through our anime club and say hello, Pete. Why not?
Hey everybody, my name's Pete. I really like talking anime, and I'm really excited to talk about Drifters today.
Are you really? Oh, perfect.
I actually am. I'm going to be the ping to your pong. So
perfect. Well, yeah. Well, again, I'm not fully negative on it, but we'll see. Again, we'll see. Let's get right into it. So first off, spoilers. To keep in mind as you do your introductions or our normal, check-in, first impressions. Keep it spoiler free outside of the first 3 episodes. Again, this show, God, when was it aired? In 2016, 2016. 2016. It has a sub and a dub. I'm pretty sure, right? Didn't it? I'm pretty sure it got a dub as well.
Yeah.
I watched the sub myself.
I watched the dub.
You watched the dub. Okay, so maybe that's
watched
going to be
both.
interesting.
The dub was really good.
Oh, it was? Okay, well, then I was going to say, well, maybe that's why you hated it. But
no, it was like
okay.
the best part of it.
All right, well,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, I guess we'll get to that in our first impressions. So, Miles, why don't you start us out?
Sure. I had no idea what to expect from Drifters. Pete nominated it a couple times, and I mean, I remember kind of looking at it and being like, I don't care. And so then I never voted for it ever. But unfortunately, the people did speak and we were forced to watch it. And so, I tried to go in with an open mind. It started off pretty cool. There was like a samurai dude, and he was fighting people. And I don't know. I was super bored like the first 3 or 4 episodes. I'm not like an action guy. I really don't care about like fight scenes or like people yelling at the screen. So, it was not for me. I don't think I would recommend this to people. I don't know. What I'll say is that if you watch these episodes and you're like, that Miles guy, I like his taste in anime, we're pretty similar. Don't watch Drifters. If you, I don't know, always think that Miles guy, his opinion sucks, maybe give it a go, because people seem to like the show. It's relatively high rated on Mal, so I'm not going to say it's awful like inherently, but it was not for me.
I was shocked how highly rated it was after the mixed reviews that it got. First impressions that we were doing in our own, pre-show banter and stuff. So yeah. So if you tend to agree with Miles, then yeah, this may not be the show for you. Kat, why don't you go next?
So for me, I literally just binged this show today. Just letting you know how much of a procrastinator I am. But I was looking at a lot of our pre-show banners before today and seeing first impressions and how they liked the show and whether they didn't like the show, stuff like that. And I was like, I don't really know how it's gonna go. Uh, then I watched the first episode and saw that it was needlessly cryptic. Maybe it's because I don't really know too much about Japanese history that I felt like it was going to be a little bit less cryptic and I was going to get more out of it. But I think one of the major flaws for me was that it wasn't assuming that you knew about these characters. It was assuming that you knew about these characters rather than assuming that you wouldn't know about these characters and telling you a little bit of backstory. Uh, and for me, that kind of like threw me off a little bit, especially with the historical aspect of it. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I just like to have my hand held through a historical anime. But
Yeah. All right. Well, I can say as someone who knows a lot about this kind of Japanese history and that these eras, I was just as confused and lost as you were in the first few episodes. So don't
but
worry, you are not alone. So that's a common or
yeah,
an understandable feeling that you could have had for sure.
but
Especially if you know nothing about it. So there you go.
overall, I would not really recommend it because that isn't really just personal gripe. It's also a gripe for people who may not have paid attention in history class. But also, like for me personally, this is not the only gripe I have to the show, and I would not recommend it because although it does get better throughout the rest of the show, better does not mean good.
I think that's fair. That's a very good point. All right, Johnny, what have you got?
All right, so about the criticism that the first few parts were confusing. When I was watching the first episode, I actually had to exit out to make sure I was watching Drifters because I was so confused by the start. I'm like, what is this? Like, this wasn't what I thought it was. But besides that, I agree. Some parts were confusing, but there were actually some things that I did like. First of all, like I think the fight scenes they did what they needed to. They weren't like the best, but like they were cool. They didn't make me bored. I was kind of invested in the story. I thought it was pretty neat. Although, yeah, some parts were confusing, but like this is like the kind of show where like you can pay attention to it, but like you don't have to. You could just watch, like just turn on monkey brain mode and just watch the cool fights. And yeah, so like if in terms of I would recommend this, I would say that like if you just want to spend like 5 hours of your life doing something because you have nothing else better to do, and I mean like sure like it's a great time waster, just watch cool fights and stuff. But like if you're looking for like a masterpiece or something, then you probably want to look somewhere else.
All right, yeah, no, I think that's a good point that you made about like uh good fight. Like again, you generally speaking liked the fights and yeah, turning on Monkey Braid. That's a good way to put it too. I think because yeah, I noticed that once I stopped paying like super close attention to the show. Once I stopped pausing every 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever, I started to enjoy it a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I think this is like the kind of show where I think it's honestly more fun if you don't pay attention to the plot and just like accept that it's dumb and just enjoy it for what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it totally makes sense that that's not something that Miles normally likes. So there we go.
I think the plot gets okay towards the end. I think that's part of it. I think that once they establish everything in their extremely roundabout kind of way, they start building off of it in a way that is relatively satisfying. At least
so
in my opinion.
It takes a very long time to get
They
there.
you don't do a great job of setting the foundation for it.
Mhm.
In my opinion.
I would be inclined to agree. Rifle, what have you got?
Yeah, so I've seen this anime quite a few times, so I'm quite biased on it. When I first started it, of course, I missed a lot of stuff. I do agree that there are bits and pieces you won't really understand. It delves into that historical aspect. But as Johnny said, I think the main takeaway from this show is how different it is from your normal isekais. Because people wouldn't think of this as an isekai when they watch it. They appreciate it for its art style and, of course, the action. Throughout the entire show, I just like the natural progression of introducing new ideas to this world compared to other isekai, where they just instantly make stuff in one episode.
I think that's fair. Yeah, they definitely they spend a lot more time on the characters figuring out the world that they're in. I think that's a very good point. Pete, what have you got?
So for me, in terms of recommendations, and I threw this out a lot in the Discord, sick plug. If you like the movie The Fast and the Furious, you will like Drifters. Is what I was like. I think it's like a really fair comparison. So this show is not going to blow my mind in terms of the writing, the screenplay, the characters or anything like that. But what is going to blow me away is how much fun I'm going to have with this show. I thought Drifters was an absolute blast. It was just so over the top, ridiculous, silly that I was just going along with the flow. Kind of like what Johnny said, if you're looking for a masterpiece, this ain't it. But I think if you're looking for like a good time, if you're like a shonen bro, I think you're really going to enjoy this style of like isekai. I think it's a very different style of isekai. A lot of fights that end up in death, which was I enjoyed that aspect. Maybe not the cast, but everybody else, and I had a really good time. It was a fun watch.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it is definitely very different from most isekai. I definitely agree with that. For me, that stuff at least that people haven't said yet. I really like the character design of the show. I'm a big history guy too, and I don't know. Again, maybe I just wanted more from the show, but the characters that they did choose to bring in were really fun. Again, I am not fully sold on the show because I think that there's a lot of potential that they left on the table by the end of it, and we can get into that a little bit more as we actually talk about the show itself. So I'd say for recommendation purposes, I would not recommend this show myself, unless you're, like Pete said, you're really into shonen fights, or you're looking for something to turn your brain off and just watch and be entertained. Because I do agree that there's a lot of like entertainment value here, but for me, because I was expecting more or wanting more, I was left frustrated rather than entertained, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, so going forward, we will have spoilers for the show beyond the first few episodes. So if you want to pause us and come back to us later, go ahead. You know, show did not pass by our normal standards of recommendations, but that doesn't mean that people still won't enjoy it. But yeah, let's get right into the discussion. So, Miles, did you have a talking points that you wanted to bring up?
I thought we could talk about a few things. One thing that I wanted to discuss with you in particular, and also everyone, was like how they use the historical elements, of the show, because I did a lot of reading for this show because I needed to figure out who everyone was, especially the Japanese figures, because I don't know a lot about Japanese history. The Joan of Arc, Gilles del Reyes. I don't know how to say it in French or like Frenchly.
Frenchly, yeah.
Yeah, Rasputin, Anastasia, Hitler. I know who these people are.
Jesus.
Butch Cassidy, Jesus is in there. That's another thing that I want to talk about at some point. Making Jesus your main antagonist is a choice that was made.
I wonder why it's so hard to watch this show in the West.
And
Man, I can't put my finger on why it is so hard.
The thing is that I think
access
Jesus
this
is
show.
like super correct with his decisions. Like they make him look really evil, but I don't think he's doing anything wrong. That's another thing we can talk about.
He gave a dragon cancer, but
Well,
the dragon was evil.
The dragon had it coming.
Yeah.
it also was a great source of bronze. So like,
but I wanted to make sure, from someone who I know knows more history than I do, and has more in depth, at least for some of these things, that they just kind of very, very like surface level did some stuff with the characters, and the depth wasn't actually about their character that much. Like, I googled like Hannibal dementia, Hannibal forgetfulness. Like, I tried to see if he died because his like memory was failing him or anything, and that's just not a real thing. He killed himself after he lost a war. And so I tried to figure out why the characters were the way they were based off of their historical selves, and other than the Japanese characters, I think that there was a lot of misses on that part. But I don't know enough about Japanese history to know if like the way of Bushido, super honorable samurai stuff is accurate or just like a meme. I have no idea.
So that tends to be like what when they were talking about the Bushido, that was relatively accurate. But so I would definitely be inclined to agree with you, where like you said, surface levels of like knowledge about these characters, and of course it's really hard to write about or to tell a story about historical characters, especially ones like Oda, who's 400 years old, or Joan of Arc, who's just as old. Like all these characters that all we know about them are what are written down about them. They're not people. It's not like someone like I don't know, just top of my head, like Elvis, who we could look back at and see his mannerisms and see how he speaks and the way he acts, because we have documentation, like we have video proof, and our grandparents can tell us how they were. These people are so much older that we only know what of the myths and the legends of them. So you do have to have some like creativity and some of your own spice, I guess you will, to these characters, right? Most of the time. But I did not feel like, in general, they hit very hard with these characters. They felt like an excuse to have a character like this, or a character with Oda's general mannerisms or history, rather than actually wanting to use that specific character. If that makes
that makes sense. Like a Western example that I thought was weird was Anastasia and Rasputin being aligned with each other. Where Rasputin is like pretty directly tied to the fall of the Romanovs in like a very heavy way, and that led to Anastasia being murdered.
Right. It was a complete change of like ideology and political. Control.
But part of the reason that the I guess like whatever Stalin's rebellion, the Red Army, the Red Rebellion sort of thing, I don't know what the historical term for it is, gained so much traction is because lots of people thought Rasputin was fucking the Tsaress, and that like Alexander looked weak because of that, and there was like a lot of like political jockeying around that, and it was really it was weird that Anastasia wasn't like 7. Two, the Archer guy died when he was like 48, and he was like a 19-year-old femboy in this. Not that that's like wrong to have as a character, but I don't know. It was just all really weird to me.
Though, yeah, it is.
Like, I mean, it's not wrong to have like that archetype, is what I'm saying. It's just weird to give it to like some guy who was apparently a fat samurai. Like, like that was the weird thing. I don't know. What did everyone else think about the historical stuff? Like, I think that there's something enjoyable about having this like backdrop, and you don't have to go super deep into it, but I just did, and I think I found that disappointing.
Yeah, Johnny, what have you got?
Yeah, so I want to compare this show to Fate, because like that's like the other show that everyone
One of the
knows
most
that has a
obvious
story.
comparisons to make.
Yeah,
right?
like the most
Especially that-
like the most
no.
obvious possible comparison.
No, but that's a
anyway.
good one though. It's a great comparison.
So, like
I
for
know
example,
what you mean.
like in Fate, a lot of the characters they use are also like super old. It's like some. It's like I wonder who's like Gilgamesh. You know, like
Yes, that is quite old.
super old. But it's like from from the stories, you can kind of see what kind of personality a person like that would have based on their actions. You know, it's like you can kind of tell what kind of person they are. Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get at?
Mm-hmm.
So like I think that's what this show could have done. It's like based on their actions in life, you can create a person based on that. And I feel like this show sometime, like I feel like maybe some of the characters did it. Again, like my historical knowledge isn't that good. But it's like it could have been a lot better, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's so many iterations of Oda in anime, like Oda
Yeah.
Nobunaga, that it's just like it's so, and they're all different. It's crazy.
Like
how
he has a
different
lot
they
of. Does he
all
have
are.
a lot of stories about him?
In anime, he does. He has one where he gets reincarnated as a freaking.
It's a dog. Yeah.
As a
I mean,
dog.
no, but I mean like in actual world history. Like, is there like a lot of information?
He's
about
a
it?
pretty.
Yeah, he's a pretty well-known
well-known.
figure.
I would
Who's
say he's
this?
like George Washington level.
Oda?
Yeah, Oda has a giant Wikipedia page.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like in general too, though, like he's like the same level of like historical importance as like let's say like George Washington is for the United States, not necessarily in like the because he did not unite the people by any means, or at least not peacefully. Like
There was an
Washington did.
attempt.
There was an attempt, but yeah, but obviously he also wasn't like a he wasn't just like some random I don't know president or a random person. Like he is easily one of the most notable people in Japanese history, especially from that era. But Kat, go ahead.
So personally, when it comes to the historical aspect of it, I have a lot of issues with like. So for a lot of the Japanese characters, like the Japanese fighter pilot, that feels like it was more brought from World War II in order to kind of carry on that kind of like World War II kind of history thing that they had going on slightly. But they also had like uh, a lot of the Warring States era characters from that era, with like Nobunaga and stuff like that. But other than that, it felt like they were just trying to bring in people that really were either didn't matter or were just kind of picked from history as some of the biggest names that they could find. Not going to say didn't matter. People that were just had big names and they just kind of like plucked them, saw their ages and stuff like that, and were just like, "Hey, we're going to give you this personality. We're going to give you this trope from anime, and we're just going to say, hey, fuck it." And personally, I like in some ways that's kind of funny, but I don't think the way that they executed it here it was because it was a little bit more like I don't know just one of the things that ended up happening in the show was that later on in the show I forget what the dude's name is, the dude that dresses like a geisha or like a woman and
That's the count. Yeah.
yeah I don't know like him saying a lot of like Nazi sympathizing, at least parallel like dialogue just didn't really sit well with me. And also like I don't know. I just couldn't get along with like a lot of the stuff that was going on.
I kind of agree with that. It was weird. Pete, sorry, do you have something on that?
Because he is the Count character is based off a German character, so I felt like that kind of made sense though. Like,
I mean, it might have made sense, but it doesn't make me feel any better about it.
He died in
17 something, yeah.
1784. He wouldn't have been a Nazi sympathizer at all.
He could have been. He could have been.
Ideas could have. I mean,
well, maybe the ideas existed back then, but obviously,
Yeah.
The Nazi Party didn't come to be until well into the 1900s. Like I don't know. That one was also as someone who that was my area of study too for most of my history classes.
There's
was
a-
World War II and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. That was a little sketch. I agree. I was just like, what is this character? Like, why? why is he like this?
I don't know. I thought it was weird to like, and I understand it's made in Japan, right?
Yep.
So like,
Yeah.
they're obviously going to have a very different view of World War II than we are, and like I understand that. But there was like the Axis Bros, like
Yeah.
shake, you know what I
That scene
mean?
was pretty
Yeah.
funny, honestly.
Doing the thing, but it's just like, I don't know. You were
It felt like it was forced. It felt like it was just there for like.
that's the
Well, I
thing. I
mean,
don't know.
that's the
I
whole
think it's
show.
like weird.
And yeah, that's
I
that's
try
one
to
thing I
have
wanted to say,
an
yeah.
appropriate amount of shame for like all the fucked up shit America's done. You know what I mean? It would sort of be like if Andrew Jackson was like a cool character in a anime or whatever. I'd be like, that's kind of weird. You know, like I don't know how
Didn't he also have
comfortable I would
slaves?
be about it.
Andrew Jackson, did a lot of bad
Yep.
things.
That's
you're saying
yeah,
the
that's what I'm
character of the
saying.
show.
It's like
Yeah.
I guess I would expect, and I shouldn't have. I mean, I know enough about Japanese culture to know that I shouldn't have. I would have expected someone who was upset because they couldn't be a kamikaze bomber to be portrayed not positively, but you know.
Can I kind of bank off of what like Kat was saying, but it's kind of
Yeah.
like in the opposite light, where I love the fact that it seems like they just wrote down a bunch of names of like historical figures, or not even real figures in this case, and put them in a hat, and then they just drew a name out of a hat, and they open it up, and it's like, all right, we got Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, and Hannibal. It's just like, what? Like, what does this have to do with anything with it?
probably
And
what
I
it is.
love that aspect of the show because the show is like presented in a way where it's like silly and like there's a lot of like comedic like scenes where when they interact with each other where like the art completely changes and it's just like this like
I hate those scenes.
I love those scenes.
I hate what they
And
did to
I
Hannibal.
didn't like those scenes.
and it's just like they have these like it's like set up where it's like I'm not supposed to take this seriously. It is presented very quickly that I should not be taking this show seriously, and I didn't. And I think that was like a huge thing of like how I kept going with it, and I kept having like fun with the show
Can I say something?
because I'm still talking,
After you guys say.
and they like how they present like these like silly interactions with each other makes it more fun when I get introduced to Butch Cassidy and Hannibal riding in a cart together and trying to escape dragons. I'm like, what is happening? Like, this show makes no fucking sense and I love it. Like, I don't know. To me, like, that was like what I really enjoyed about the show. I'm not looking for a history lesson. I'm looking for like some stupid shit, and I got stupid shit.
But here's the thing, because
But Johnny wanted to go next. Sorry, Kat, and then we can bounce to you.
So like, what you're saying about like just literally picking random historical characters
Yes.
out of a hat.
Yes.
See, the thing, and like I hate doing this, but I'm gonna compare to Fate again.
I mean, that's a very fair comparison.
So like, I feel like in this anime, they picked a bunch of characters and they made a story from a bunch of random characters.
And I love that.
Yeah, but like, imagine if it was like a structured story based on like specific characters.
I
in
would love
history
that as well.
and how they interact with each other. That makes sense.
Yes.
So like, for example, like in Fate, you have like Alexander the Great versus like King Arthur. It's like both of these characters are like the interaction between those historical figures.
Yes.
Is like amazing. It's because like the way their characters mesh and like how they interact with each other,
Yeah.
their different ideals. But they're like in this story, in Drifters, it doesn't really have any of that.
Yeah, and Fate is a better show because of that. But it's still like
Yeah, exactly.
it's still like really weird example. If you've ever seen like the Scary movies, I thought Scary Movie 1 was great. I thought like Scary Movie 4 was like a pile of dog shit. But like there's still like funny parts about like Scary Movie 4 that I enjoy. This is kind of like what Drifters is. Drifters is Scary Movie 4 and Fate is Scary Movie. It's just like I'm taking the elements that I enjoy from these style of shows and like, having the enjoyment of it, but it's not like this masterpiece of like well-written creativity like Fate is. It's just like fucking ad-lib the anime, and I am okay with that.
So like this is Fate Abridged, basically.
Yeah, that's fine. Fate Abridged. That's a great way to put it. It was fun. That's all I don't have to. I don't need Shawshank Redemption. every anime that I watch. Sometimes I want Fart Joke the anime,
but
and this
isn't Shawshank Redemption. Like, it,
well, you know the
like,
point I'm trying to make. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I know the point you're trying to make. I have just so many, like, I know we're getting over fucking, Hannibal is like one of the fucking coolest dudes in history. He is so cool, and there's like the one thing everyone knows about Hannibal is that he brought the fucking elephants over the Alps. That didn't even go well. They almost all died. It went very poorly. But, like, he did it, so props to him. And so they have the one throwaway joke to prove that they fucking Googled Hannibal, and they were like, oh, you brought the elephants. And then they kind of lampshade it, and they're like, that's all anyone ever talks about. You have a whole scene where they're, like, learning, like, military tactics and stuff. Fucking Hannibal invented the double envelopment, right? That's him. That's Hannibal. That is like an all-time classic military maneuver, and that's how he defeated Rome in like a massive battle, where he did like a fake retreat with his center, and then the other sides of his army like pushed forward and enveloped the Roman centurions or whatever, right? And like that's like a huge tactical thing that he invented that gets used in war today. And like you have moments where people are learning these things, and you don't need to know a lot about Hannibal to know that he did that, because I don't know a lot about Hannibal, and I know that he did that. So, like, I think that I'm not asking them to have, like, read 3 fucking biographies about Hannibal. I'm asking them to add any amount of depth to the things that they're already doing in the show to accentuate the characters.
that's fair.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. Instead, I don't feel like I got any of that. They also tried to make whatever, the frickin' child murderer guy that was Joan of Arc. He talks about how he thought John was going to hell, and he wanted to serve his lady forever, so he needed to ensure that he was going to hell. Now, they don't talk about what he did in the show, but what he did was take a whole bunch of children, throw them in a dungeon, rape them, and kill them, and he was executed for it. So, like, they tried to make him seem like an honorable servant because he was like, oh, I gotta ensure I go to hell. How am I gonna do this? Will I don't know, like, take the Lord's name in vain, work too hard on Sundays or something?
Kill yourself.
No, what I'm gonna do,
Yeah,
you
do
could
that
just kill yourself. That's a thing.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
You'd be
No,
a heathen.
what
You'd be
I'm
sent
gonna
to hell.
do is I'm going
But
to.
he wanted to make sure of it.
He really wanted to be sure. I'm gonna.
Suicide is literally one of the
He wanted to get the 100% sin, like, glitchless.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
because you
I guess
can't
so.
even confess the suicide because you're dead. So, like,
right, so you're going to hell.
yeah.
because
So,
of
but
that.
what
Right.
does he do? He like murders 50 children and like rapes them all and stuff. And like, oh boy, like, what an honorable man for doing that. Sorry,
Cat-
you know
Cat,
what?
you have a point.
We should
Cat had a-
switch this up. Oh, Cat,
But
you had a
also,
thing
Cat
to say.
had a very specific
Well,
point.
my
too.
point was already said by Johnny, so never mind.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good we got Johnny in then, because Johnny would have been sad. Fire, though. I want Fire to talk about things he liked about this, because people like the show. It's got like an 8 on Mal. It's not entirely bad, and a show can't just be bad because they didn't include the double envelopment. So, Fire, what do we got?
Yeah, so I just want to play off Pete's idea. The whole I agree. A lot of these characters, they needed more depth, but as Pete said, it's all about that action, which people just love. Isekai, it just sets it different. People were shocked by the beheadings, especially with the main character. There's a layer of strategy, not too much, but just the idea, like with Hannibal, where they're taking over the wall, and even though his communication skills aren't great, Oda Nobunaga had the what's the word? He figured out what he was saying by using the charms to make a stone staircase to go around the walls for the
That was
troops.
dope. I love that scene.
There wasn't
Or,
the raspberries.
That was with the hand movement. The raspberries came later, where Oda's freaking out, like, "Oh my, are we gonna get overrun?" And he's just like directing the raspberries on the ground. Hannibal is, and Oda's like, "Wait a second, hey yo, bro, check to make sure. Are they random movements or nah?" And I'm just like, it just shows that there is a level of intelligence, maybe not too much, but there is a
That
little.
is quite a stretch.
I just think that, like, that's a hole they dug themselves in because, again, unless I couldn't find it, but, like, Hannibal didn't need to be like borderline, you know, like
Brain dead or
dementia
something.
riddled or whatever. Like I mean, I remember that scene, and I did like that scene. As they go further and they start like launching their offensives and stuff, I think there are cool moments. A lot with Obanaga. Is that his name? I don't know how to
Yeah.
say it. I think that's cool. But there's also that scene where he does all of this strategic stuff, right, to try to like fight off the N's army, right? And they're doing all the stuff, and then Gaius Del Reyes or whatever is like Hercules, right? He cannot be taken down. They're doing all of this neat tactical stuff that's brought in from their world, and then freaking Butch Cassidy just shows up with a Gatling gun and just like kills them. And it's like to me, it would have been cool if the tactical stuff had won, as opposed to like, lol, I have a machine gun, which I guess there's like value in that. Maybe I don't know. I see. Like, I think it undercuts itself a little bit.
See, one of the things that I felt that was kind of odd about it, like especially with I mean, not odd. One of the things that I actually liked about the show was honestly uh, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and this is only a talking point. This is only a positive for me because I'll watch the dub. So when I started watching the dub, I got about to like episode 4, which is where Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid like get introduced, and they start like shooting a bunch of shit. And one of the things that I really liked about it was that they like the dub had their accents, and that actually made me feel a little bit more engaged. That actually made me feel like this was actually something that I actually wanted to watch partially. And then they kind of were in the show for a little bit, and then they just kind of disappeared for the most part after a few episodes. And then I was like, okay, well, now it's got to be in trash. But like, other than that, like that was probably the best part of the show for me until like maybe until the last 2-3 episodes, and that was pretty much it. Sorry, Rifle, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, I was just gonna say that the thing that one of the parts I liked about the show is just Oda's realization of technology. Just with him being in a different time period and him being introduced to tech, he's just like, this could change the battlefield. Why haven't you been thinking of this? Like the whole the orbs that the Octoberists used. He's like,
Yes.
this can send messages across the battlefield. You guys have just been sending reports. Or like again with Butch's machine gun, he's like, this can change the battlefield. We don't need troops anymore. We can just encamp. I just liked that realization of him experiencing that new tech he wouldn't have ever experienced in his life.
Yeah, I will say that was a very well done aspect of Oda, right? Where one of the things he's most known for, yeah, at least when you just consider him in like a general, again, surface level perspective of Oda, one of the things that he was known for, obviously trying to conquer all of Japan, failing as well. He's known for that, but then also for being very willing to change his plans and willing to again invite new technology. So the firearms and stuff like that, like him being fascinated by that actually fit the character, which was really cool. I will say again, like he was one of the few ones where it was just like, all right, this one was good, really well done. I wonder if it's maybe because he was Japanese, maybe they felt more comfortable to write about him, maybe that, or the original author felt more comfortable and more capable of writing him as a character. But again, that's where that was about it, at least that I saw with Oda. But again, we can't know that for sure because we've talked about before, these are historical figures who we've never experienced or known in our own lifetime. So what else did you like, though, Rifle? What was your other like big takeaway, I'd say, from this show? Like what was what has you so high on it, other than what we were just talking about?
Along with the fact that this is Hitler's kingdom they're trying to take over, like Miles said, the main person that's portrayed as the antagonist is Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that you like about it.
I think it's great.
Because as I said, like again, anime or media that's just a touchy topic, and they're just like
Very.
they never say it's him, but it's heavy alluded. It is him. There are moments where he's like, "I try to save humanity, but I was betrayed," and on his arms there are points where he could have been hung up on some type of item,
The
nailed.
crucifixion.
Yeah,
Yep.
he had the stigmata. He uses a lot of biblical like terminology. Like he said, while he's like torturing the dragon or whatever, he says the scales fell from your eyes too late. And in Acts whatever, like 1:7 or something, it says the scale, or 7 something, because 1 is just the begat thing. But it says like the scales fell from Paul's eyes or something when he gets turned to the way of Jesus Christ. So Jesus, like, or whoever this character is, we don't know. This character that totally could be Jesus, says a similar thing to what the Bible says when people are converted to the faith. There are some cool
he's not
hints
white
there.
though, so he's not Jesus. He can't. He can't.
Yeah,
be
that's
Jesus.
going
Yeah,
to-
Wasn't
obviously.
Blonde
Jesus
hair.
actually Middle Eastern?
Yeah, that's the joke.
That is
Uh,
thank you, Johnny. That is the joke.
I'm sorry.
That
Can you
as
tell I'm
a-
not white?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't see colors, so no.
I hate everyone equally.
There we go. All right, full circle. We're coming back. Jesus doesn't hate everyone equally, so there we go.
He
I liked
also,
it.
I actually
hates some
kind of like
people
Jesus'
more.
character. He protects the downtrodden races of like the world, like, and he like helps teach them and like teach them like compassion and stuff. They're like mistreated people that he heals, and I think that's really cool. Jesus hating all of humanity is like a little counter to like the message of the Bible.
A little
but
bit. Just a
yeah,
little bit,
some might say the exact opposite. But I think that if you're gonna do this,
Yeah.
then like at least having him be a champion for someone is like a neat way to do it.
Mhm.
What did you guys think about the portrayal of the Ends, who want to destroy humanity because of, I guess, them dying during conflict or something like that,
A lot
right?
of it's like just revenge, like you said, revenge, betrayal, or just a hatred, a seething hatred. Because you look at one of the characters later on, Mutsuhide, who was the person that tried to kill Oda Nobunaga.
Yes. Yeah, like my thought on that was like, and I guess this is actually good for how the shows do it. You can almost spin anyone to be either faction. Because a lot of these historical figures don't meet very pleasant endings to their lives. Like Hannibal like lost a war
Jesus.
and then killed himself so that he wasn't
Mhm.
well, Jesus isn't Ends, right? I believe.
Yeah, but like another thing, like you don't know who's who because of how mucky everything is. Because in the beginning, Oda's like looking at Hitler. He's like, "Is this a drifter?" And you hear from the girls say, "We don't know if he was a drifter or an end." And then later on, it gets confirmed he's a drifter. But prior, no one knew which side he was on.
Yeah. That's like, and I mean, that's another, like, Hitler would have been a great fit for an Ends. He died in his bunker, like, as Russia was knocking down the door and he killed himself.
Well,
Like,
technically, in this timeline, he didn't die yet, so maybe that's why he
that's
became a
true.
drifter.
Well, if you're, yeah, he would have not died, because, like, they did a lot of the things where, like, we never found the body of people, ended up being drifters. Like, the Japanese fighter pilot was like allegedly shot down like 2 weeks before World War II ended. Quite the bummer for him. But they never found his plane or his body. The main guy's body was never found at was Shinjogahara, is that it? Or
Shimazu?
well, the battle, whatever the battle was. I think Shinjogahara is the Monogatari girl.
That is-
Yes, she is.
Yeah, the
That's
battle
why I was
sounds similar.
confused.
Would Senju be an end or a drifter?
We don't know how she dies yet.
Sekigahara.
Sekigahara, that's it.
Of course, that's so close.
If it was the Battle of Senjogahara, I'd be way more into the anime, though.
Alright, we'll just fucking kill everyone.
That'd be sweet.
Just like a battle for Hitagi's heart.
Shinobu just pulls out a Glock or something and just kills everyone.
But yeah, I think that I don't know. I kind of like I liked the ends a lot because they had powers that were related to how they died or who they were in real life, and I thought that added some of the depth to them that the drifters were missing a little bit. It's sort of like how Fate does it. It's like, we can't add too much depth to this character, but they get something that's cool because like we know about that. So I don't know. I kind of liked that faction, and everyone was kind of a dick, so I was like kind of rooting for the eradication of humanity in this world. I was like pretty pro that.
So honestly, on my side, like what I think is that there was like the drifters were kind of rooting for the like extinction of humans, like in the first place. Like, of course they were helping the demi-humans, but for the most part, they didn't really have that many humans on their crew except for like the 200 the Thieves Guild or whatever it's called. The 200 like gay men. And like they had the drifters and then the Octoberists. But other than that, those were the only like actual humans they had on their team. Every other human, like they were looking to kill. And it seems like because of where they are, like they're going to either continue trying to kill those humans or they're going to like just say, you guys, as long as you don't come near us, we're not going to kill you, but as soon as you step foot near us, we're going to cut your ass down. Like
I do think it's a little different because they specifically say, like, in the anime, the kingdom that they're fighting against, they don't specifically say humans unless it's like the elves. The elves are saying like the humans enslaved us or whatever. But like when the drifters are talking about it, they specifically say like, is it Orte or whatever how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
They specifically say that they're fighting that kingdom. They're not saying like we hate humans. They're saying we are fighting this kingdom. And so
that's what I think as well. Like I don't think. Sorry, go on.
No, it's just that's like it's not like the drifters hate humans; they're just fighting that kingdom.
But that's the thing. Like, they continue to reference that they're going to fight. The ends are trying to kill all of humanity, and humanity, of course, unless they are referencing like anything with human in the name or anything that looks like a human or has the feelings of a human, like they're specifically talking about humans. And if you're talking about drifters, that's completely different.
So you mean like that the end's viewpoint is they want to kill all humanity, and then the drifters are on like Oda's side it's kind of like I see what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so I have this question for Fire, and I think it goes well from the point Kat was just making. Like, it's kind of like a 3-point conflict, and it sort of seems like the ends and the drifters could team up to destroy the Empire.
Absolutely.
But they don't. Is that explained ever, Fire?
As I said, like nothing is like ever. As I said, between them, it's very mucky. At least in the manga, there is one person that could potentially go over to the other side, but like if you look at who is it, Mutsehide or the other Japanese person, they have questions to where their allegiance lies, whether they are a drifter or end. So there is no really. For some of them, it's not sure if it's established. As I said, with the drifters, I think some of them they are looking to protect humanity, but like with Oda's group, their goal isn't humanity. They just want territory. They want to take over stuff. They just want to fuck stuff over. So this is just them going after their own goals, which I think's the whole point of the guy in the hallway is to keep the world changing.
Okay. Because, like, that is a thing that I thought was pretty interesting about the show, and, like, what you're describing there, I don't think that they delved into it as much as I would have liked, but maybe they do in the manga, or maybe they do, like, later on with the later chapters. But, like, the idea of you have these two factions of, like, out-of-worlders who are brought in, and you don't know who is allied with who other than ends have supernatural powers, right? Like drifters don't have supernatural powers. And but like the ability for one or the other to, I guess, like cosplay as each other, or for them to work together and sort of have a fluid allegiance, seems interesting to me. Like I like that idea that at any given conflict, maybe you get some, ends who join the drifters and some drifters who join the ends based off of like who they were in history and all of that sort of stuff, because there's that overlap isn't always going to exist when you're pulling characters from such a diverse set of backgrounds. And so they play with it, I think, a little bit. With that last guy, the Japanese general from like the 1800s who was like a royal guard or something. But I would like to see more of that, and it is something that I think that the show does an interesting job of like setting up as a way that could be interesting. They don't capitalize on it quite yet, but wouldn't be surprising to me if they did, because I was pretty intrigued by that.
My other thing is like the potential I can see from the show, which not even the manga is there, is two things. One is that like the ends, they're pretty much a united front. The drifters, I'm hoping for when they actually meet up, because we still got the fighter pilot and Scipio with their own tribe, and we got the Armada, the admiral, who's been helping that merchant guild, who's somewhere else. If they were to team up, I would see that actually happen. The other thing is, because both sides have personal history with Mutsuhide and Oda Nobunaga, the archer guy for Drifters versus someone else from Enders, and Toyahisa versus the other guy, it'd be nice to see that development happen.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I would say that I think what might actually be the issue with the show, when I think about it, is that it's setting up something that's like pretty long, and I want to hear from the other people who didn't like it as much. Like Kat, Johnny sounds like he's a little on the fence. Pat as well. Like, to me, I think that the pacing of this and like how they set up things is like pretty slow, but towards the end of it, I thought they did an interesting job of setting up stuff, but it ends really abruptly before there's any sort of payoff. And I wonder if this, and I don't think it had the source material for it at the time, but it had been like a 2-core show, and if it continued at the trajectory that it was going on, I think I would have liked the show like a lot more, because I think that there's interesting stuff that they set up. I think that they sort of dilly-dallied around all of that, and because we only got these 12 episodes, there wasn't a payoff for any of that setup, and it just all felt relatively unsatisfying.
You remember like when we did Land of the Illustrious? It was kind of like that, where I felt like Land of the Illustrious was a great show. It's just it needed way more content to answer the questions that were needed. And I think Drifters is kind of in the same boat, where there are a lot of question marks to the story where we end at. And I do think more content could answer those questions easily. But it's just one of those things where if we're viewing it in the scope of 12 episodes, that's just how we're like rating our scores, I guess. So it's kind of like that comparison of like, just with what we got, like, what do you think about it? And I do agree, like, there's a lot of just what, like, I don't understand the context because I wasn't given enough context.
Yeah. I think the more that I talk about this, though, I do understand the hype that, like, you and Fire, like, I don't share it, but, like, it makes more sense to me, I think. Like, because, if you're just, like, watching this and you're, like, having fun, and so you don't really care about what's happening in the first 5 or 6 episodes, you're just like, holy shit, a dragon and a plane are fighting each other, let's fucking go.
Damn right.
Then, that like powers you through like episode 5 or whatever, and then like around episode 8 or 9 they actually start setting up interesting plot lines, and you're like, okay, like now we're really, we're cooking with gas now. And then like that makes sense to me. I think that I don't know. Like part of it might be that I watch the show for Anime Club. When I watch things for Anime Club, I like sit down, I take notes, I do research
You
on
think more
all.
critically about it, right?
I
I'd do
do
the
because
same
it's like
thing, yeah.
it's like our job to, like I sit
Yeah.
down. I mean, I've watched plenty of bad anime that are like not bad anime, but like I don't know. I was watching Demon Slayer earlier today, but I wasn't taking any notes on it or anything, and like I had a fun time. I'm sure if I sat down and thought about it, some stuff would have been stupid. But like, I was like, oh my god, the water goes around the sword, and he's fighting the girl with 6 arms. Let's go! And it's like, oh, Sonoko or whatever her name is,
Let's
like
go.
roundhouse kicked the guy. That was cool. I like it when she roundhouse kicks people. like, so like that was, so like I don't know if I had just like turned this on like one Saturday as I was hanging out, and I might have just been like, holy fuck, a dragon and a plane fight each other. The coolest shit of all time. But because I was like, okay, what's this person's name? Okay, I need to read the entire Wikipedia page about them, and then I like fucking learn Japanese history for this. I'm like, okay, let's learn how like these Japanese families work and how they pass down their castles and everything, and it's just like none of that mattered. And so like I guess it might be a little
Yeah.
on me, but
No, it's not. That's a
it's-
completely fair thing. I don't know. I think well, you expected too much, but at the same time, I don't know. Well,
it
it
told me to a little bit though.
it did for one, and then also that's how when you're watching a show, that's how it should be too. Like I don't know. Like I don't think like saying you expected too much from a show, that's almost like counterintuitive, because you should think of it as like, oh well, I want this piece of art to be the very best thing that I've ever seen, or want it to be like I don't know. I think that's why like I understand your point, because that's how I usually go into these shows, which is why I end up so critical about them, or trying to find ways to be critical about them sometimes with some of the good ones that we've had too, where I've been like, oh, I didn't like this, or I didn't like this aspect, when in reality that was such a nitpicky little detail. But in this case, you're not nitpicking, you're taking a very consistently promoted theme of this, which is that, oh, these are based off of real people, and these are um and what happened to them in their real lives affects how they are in this isekai. And then it didn't really fully deliver on that. But yeah, I think we should probably move on to I don't know, do we do best boy and best girl, or
I think best character, maybe.
Yeah, I think best character. Would be
I don't
the
think
best
we
one.
have a lot of choices for girls in this show.
yeah, I don't know. I think what we could do maybe is best character, and if you have like a second character you want to throw in as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But yeah, so Miles, why don't you start?
Sure. So best character, Jesus Christ, the Black King. I think he's a cool antagonist. I liked that. We didn't get to see like a ton, but I feel like there's some gray there, right? Like he, while the good guys are like freeing demi-humans and stuff, like dwarves and elves that are being enslaved, they're, I guess, not even main antagonist, an antagonist of some sort. The person going against humanity, which includes the drifters, is like raising up these like, other races that have been prejudiced against, who weren't civilized and stuff. Like he was teaching them how to farm and everything. He's like, I don't know. I think that's neat. I do have a best girl. It's Anastasia. She has like 6 lines. But royalty aesthetic is dope, and she didn't have enough lines for me to not like her. So, best girl.
Oh, there we go. That it suddenly makes more sense. All right, there we go. All right, Kat, what have you got for best character?
Best character for me is probably going to be Butch Cassidy, mainly because of his accent, and that's only because I watched the dub. Like that's pretty much it. Second favorite character is the kid, the Sundance Kid. That's all I got. That's pretty much it. That's mainly because like their voice actors in the dub were great, honestly, and they weren't utilized enough, because those were the only characters that I actually liked and borderline took seriously. Everyone else, I was just kind of like, please get off of my screen so I can maybe see something else that's a little bit more intriguing. Needless to say that out of all the characters that we've seen, the main characters will probably be except for the Archer kid. The main characters would be at the ass end of that list. So
You really
that's
didn't like
all.
him. Hmm.
No, I
I
didn't.
liked Obanaga, but for the most part, I agree with you, Kat.
Yeah.
Except for Obanaga had the whole like boob bit with the girl, and I
Exactly.
didn't like that.
That
at
was
all.
really bad. That was really
Yeah,
bad.
that was so dumb.
Yeah. Anime. Johnny, what have you got?
All right, so my best boy is actually going to be the elf kid that the drifters rescued in Shora, right?
Which one?
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
it's,
right. The main
when-
one. Yep.
Yeah.
The
So
village
I
leader.
thought he was
oh, okay.
I thought he was like the most sensical character in the show. Like the stuff he did made sense, and also
Sensible?
I thought like he was a I can't speak English. And
We got what you're saying.
and also like he's like morally like a good person as well. Like he didn't want to kill even though he hated humans, he didn't kill the human that like said claimed that he didn't do anything. And also like he freed the dwarves even though he's racist and hates dwarves for some reason. I don't know. And if I had a second character, I'm actually gonna say Oda just because like I thought some of the fights like the strategy that he came up with during the fights were actually really smart and like the stuff he did make sense. Like for example, like talking about dragging the cavalry into the forest to take them out with archers from inside the trees. Like I thought stuff like that was really smart. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Rifle, what have you got?
Yeah, so I'm big brain shonen over here. Main character, I just like Toyohisa. I loved his attitude. Uh, his thinking is just go forward and kill people. I just love the little bit where he's just in another world. He doesn't understand the language, and he's just like, "Listen, bro, if you can't speak my language, then just drop your head."
Yeah.
And he is very combat effective because, as the girl had said later on, this is the second time you used my spell to actually go after your enemies. Where the second time he trapped heavy armors and had them get exploded to pieces.
Yeah.
The
Go ahead.
I was just to say, for second character, which I feel they have the similar mentality, would be the pilot dude, Naoshi Kano. I loved him in the dub because the thing I liked was his dialogue. Because for dub, I just like it when characters say fuck, bullshit, all of that. So as he's flying his plane, he just comes out of nowhere and he's just like, clear the airways. What are you doing riding that dragon over there? And I just loved his personality. It's a shame we didn't see more of him from the anime, but I just loved his personality.
So you say from the anime, was he more prevalent in the manga? I don't know if you're a source reader or not.
Yeah, later on he does get added more, and he does tie into two of the characters, which I felt impacted more.
That's interesting. All right, well that's cool. That's a cool little tidbit. If you, in case all of us are definitely planning on going and reading this after we finish this club meeting. So, but yeah, that's cool. All right, Pete, what about you?
Man, best character. I didn't think any of these characters like really stood out to me as like a good character, great character. But if I had to pick one, it's probably Nobunga. I kind of liked his comedy skits. I hated the boob jokes. I thought him saying it once was fine because that's what happens in anime. They always have to like let you know the size of this girl's breast, whether she's flat or not. And so I expected the one boob joke. The fact that there was like 15 is like really obnoxious and not funny. But I did think like the other interactions we had with people were really well done. I really liked the scene with him and the dwarves explaining how to like essentially like make a musket out of iron for the first time, and them just like looking at it and like talking about it. I thought that scene was great, and he was like kind of like the leader of that. And kind of like a shout to like the second character that we didn't really talk about, but it's like another religious theme that was added, is Abe, who is the leader of the Octoberists, who is, from what I'm kind of reading, is based off of he's some dude in Hebrew named Abraham, and I'm pretty sure that's who it's based off of. and he was like another like chosen person of God, try to like guide people to like the Holy Land
He is considered the father of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's who the main character for the Octoberists is based off of, and it's just like I think that just ties into like the religious theme as well, with Jesus being the Dark Lord or whatever, being Voldemort. I don't know. So yeah, those are probably my two like characters that like kind of stood out for me.
Interesting. All right. Well, so I have someone who was completely different from my favorite was and the main reason I like this one the most, I guess I can explain right after. It's Joan of Arc. I loved that the idea that, or the way they took her character, which was burned at the stake, so she suddenly that drove her insane, right? Or that made her go crazy. I liked that. I liked that fire became part of her kit, or I say kit, but you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
her
it is.
abilities, like powers, whatever you want to say. Like that's pretty sick. I liked how she, especially because once it's eventually revealed, like the Black Jesus, you know, like it's just she turned her back on Christianity, you know, flipped over her the crosses that were usually on her armor sets. Like I thought that was really cool. I thought it could have been so much more could have been done with her. I really wanted more, but that she was still my favorite one, just because of that. Those like very very clever decisions that they made with her capabilities and her personality. I thought that was really cool, even if it did get a little overshadowed sometimes by, you know, crazy Gilles de Rais right there, you know, just murdering and, you know, torturing children right next to her. Like, you
She's
know,
a saint.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she was canonized.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, all right. So I think that wraps up our best character stuff. I don't know. Again, there were other cool characters, but I didn't care that much about them. I was just like, whatever. But yeah, let's move on to our final thoughts and our final scores. So Miles, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Drifters had some cool stuff. It also had stuff that bores me. I'm not like big into anime fights. I know a lot of people are. So like, if you like anime fights, which is like a large part of the anime community, take what I'm saying with a pinch of salt. But I thought the show was pretty boring. I thought it set up some like interesting character dynamics like later on, and I thought that the plot got more cohesive later on, and so it definitely helped itself out. Um, I think I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10.
All right, a 5 out of 10. Okay. Kat, what about you?
So personally, there were very small points of this show that I actually liked. Bush Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, two things that I actually liked. Joan of Arc, when she was a badass, that was one thing that I actually liked. Other than that, not too much. I mean, like if you were watching a dub, I mean, of course, like you probably like the dub a little bit better than the sub. But here's the thing: I did watch the dub too, and if I continued watching the dub rather than watching the sub, I mean, if I continued watching the sub rather than the dub, I feel like my score would have been lower. And the thing is, if I did watch this when it first came out, this is what my score would have been because the dub would have been out. And because of that, I'm gonna give it a 4
You get a
because
4.
bad. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me. All right, Johnny, what about you?
All right, yeah. So I agree with a lot of the things they said that were bad about the show. I thought the comedy was pretty bad. The animation, like, I can see the appeal, is just not that appealing for me. So like for me, like it wasn't something bad about the show, but like it also wasn't something good about the show. But it's just like I thought the fights were cool. This show I could just turn my brain off and watch. It was really easy for me to binge. And because of all that, I'm gonna give this a 7. Like it's no masterpiece, but I enjoyed it and like I enjoyed watching it. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you enjoy it a little bit at least, then you gotta give it something, right? I can agree with that. Rifle, what about you? Let's bump the score up a little bit. Let's hear it.
I don't know about that.
Oh
Yeah.
shit!
Uh,
Did we ruin your favorite show for you? Oh no!
oh no, that's not. So I recognize the flaws. Like the characters themselves could have been developed more, especially with Giles. It would have been nice to know more of his history instead of, oh, he's just dead now. Uh, But aside from that, I just enjoyed the action it had. I liked the heavy atmosphere that other anime of the genre isekai just don't have. I like the premise of it, and I like the progression of the technology, the skills that they introduce. And another thing that I'm sure a lot of you didn't like, I enjoyed the music. It was great for the action scenes, and I just really enjoyed it. Uh, a little thing, I've seen this show again multiple times, so it never loses its appeal to me. I'm comfortable giving Drifters an 8.
An 8. Okay, you scared me for a little bit, saying like, oh, maybe not. No, you definitely raised the score quite a bit. Perfect. All right, Pete, what about you?
Kind of with Rifle, I like just the absolute insanity that this show is. The fact that we are getting dragons versus TIE fighters or whatever. We're getting Butch Cassidy versus Rasputin. Stuff like that is just, that's like what makes, it's like why I gravitate towards the medium of anime, is because this would never be made into a TV show. And that's like things that I really enjoy. I thought the fights were so good. I thought the art style was really cool. At some points, it was a little weird, especially with like the count. Sometimes like how they drew his eyes were like, they would like change his eye size depending on how zoomed in his face was. That was really weird, but like I really enjoyed like the unique art style. I thought the CG was done really well, except for the scenes where they're walking, which were just so bad for some reason. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I thought this show was just like a really fun sit down action style of show. I compare it to like Fast and the Furious if it was set in anime, and I don't know, just bullshit crazy. That's what it was. I think it's a 7. I think it was good. If more content came out, I would watch it. I'm not gonna like rush out and buy the manga or anything like that, but I thought this was a good show. I think a 7 is a fair score.
All right, yeah, and I'll echo a lot of the same points. I agree. I think so. My final score is going to be a 7 as well. I feel pretty confident that will not change no matter how much more or less I watch of it. So again, I as a big historical guy, I'm never going to complain when history and historical figures, especially ones that were brought up like Oda, Joan of Arc, all these fantastic people that have been written about and talked about for literal millenniums for some of them. It's cool. It's something that I will always enjoy, but when it's not done extremely well, or it's not as as detailed as I, being a history guy, might want it to be, that's where it's going to lose some points for me. So, but again, I think that to complain about this show, like there's nothing that really was that heavily bad or dislikable about the show. It was just there are a lot of missing things that I thought it could have done a lot better with, or had the potential to do that it chose not to, that we talked about earlier. And and it also just didn't have it just didn't have that like it factor. Like Fate, I don't know why Fate, again, we'll bring it up again, but like Fate has like that, just that edge to it, right? Where the I don't know, I couldn't put it down. With this show, it was easy to binge, but I also wasn't like dying to know who won in the end, or who was, or what was going to happen, who was going to survive, who was going to die, whatever. Like there just wasn't, I just didn't have that the same level of anticipation or anything like that. So I think a 7 is a pretty good place to put it. But yeah, so averaging out those scores, we end up with a 6.33 repeating, which is so 6.33. That's about a point and a half or so lower than the MAL average of a 7.93. So that's pretty interesting to see that normally we're pretty close to it. We're pretty far off from the MAL score this time. But yeah, that wraps up our discussion of Drifters. So Miles, you didn't respond to me. What are we watching?
I
What are we
didn't
watching
respond
2
to
weeks
you.
from now? Yeah, I know.
So-
It's killing me. The anticipation.
We voted on some shows, everyone. There were a few shows we voted on. There was Now and Then, Here and There. There was Flying Witch, Megalobox, Devil's a Part-Timer, and a show called Pet. So, in third place, we had a tie between Flying Witch and Devil is a Part-Timer. Devil is a Part-Timer now has an unprecedented 6 legacy points, by
That's
the way.
insane.
It is a free first place.
absurd.
It almost won
Wow.
via legacy points this week. but it didn't. In second place, we have a first-time contender known as Megalobox.
Ooh.
Coming in second place.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
First place.
We're watching Pat, aren't we?
We're
Oh my.
we're watching Pat.
Oh no! No!
Yes!
I'm sorry, Pete.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
I mean, how it goes.
So I think this Pet has got to be one of the lowest shows that we have. Pet has a 6.46. What is
Handshakers might be lower,
her flag?
and if her flag
Handshakers
breaks
lower.
might be lower.
So if her flag breaks is a 6.42, which
that
is
is
real
low.
close.
I think Handshakers is in the 5s.
Handshakers is a
Handshakers
5.31. So this is the second lowest show that we're going to watch that isn't a meme episode. And to be perfectly honest, if her flag breaks, it was kind of a meme episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it
it
was.
It was.
Like,
It
it
Has
was just what
dominated it,
everyone
it's a
agreed
meme.
to support Has for 1 week. And but yeah, Pet just naturally won.
I don't know how. I really don't.
I
I
don't know
voted
either.
Well,
Miles-
Miles intentionally threw his vote, and then I voted for it because I was just like, well, I don't care about anything else that's on this list, so let's see what happens when I throw my vote on this. And then
I did not
Here we are.
intentionally throw my vote. I
Yes, you did.
promised Kat that I would attempt to
you
get Kat
did.
Pet to win, and that would include voting for it first overall.
by throwing.
Um,
There we go. Okay.
Yes, but Pet
Stop the
wins.
count.
Oh, it's
So-
too late to change anything. We are
Uh,
stopping
yeah,
the
So
count.
I had to throw a
Now-
stop the count and meme, you know.
Yeah, so Pete, you had to have attempted to watch this because it's a 2020 anime. How
it
many
was-
episodes into Pet did you get?
I didn't make it past episode 1.
Okay.
I got to the point where I didn't even register it on my Mal.
I think
Okay.
I watched like the first episode or two, and I dropped it.
Okay,
Nice.
well, we will be watching the hit
I can't wait.
2020 anime Pet.
I can't wait.
Can we do X arms?
Oh, by the way, I know this is super random. I completely forgot. This is our 2-year anniversary. So if you're
Well, hi.
if you're watching us, thank you. This is legit like the 2-year anniversary of the podcast.
Of the
I completely
podcast
forgot.
itself, yeah. Of the podcast itself.
Years.
Anime Club
We'll
is
celebrate
right
it
there,
tomorrow because we
Do
haven't done
we
that.
do we think that Pet can dethrone Blood Blockade Battlefront?
No,
No?
Honestly, I don't think so.
no, because the difference is Blood Blockade Battlefront tried to be a good show and just like I don't know. Pet knows
How do
it's
we-
bad.
Does
Well,
it?
I guess
Yeah.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
Find out.
Yeah,
We are
yeah.
going to find out. But yeah, so that is Pet we will be watching on July 12th. Oh my god. If any of us survive that long watching this show. But now we will vote for our next episode, which would be or nominate to vote for the next episode, which would be the 26th of July. So right in the heat of summer, does anyone have a nomination that they are just dying to get out there?
Sure, why not?
Cat's the
Sure.
winner. Let him go first.
What's your
Yeah.
replacement?
This is gonna be.
Honestly, I
Watch what
was
you're
not.
fucking voting for, by the way.
I was not. Don't test me. I was not expecting Pet to win at all because that was the second time I put it in. Because the first time you guys were like, "Fuck
I think
that."
the first time it got 0 points. So
Yeah, and then it won. This time I'm actually going to nominate a show that I haven't watched. I've never even heard of it. But it does seem to have a decent a decent score on Mal. It's got a 7.87. It's called The Eccentric Family. It came out in 2013, in fall of 2013, and it's supposed to be a slice of life comedy with demons, drama, and fantasy. It seems really interesting. So I thought that I would nominate it because in the off chance that Pet actually won, because I was ready to go in for the long one on Pet. Now I don't have to. I decided that I was going to choose this one because also the second season is apparently even more highly rated.
Okay.
It looks like Natsumi's Book of Friends.
haven't
That's
seen
the vibe I'm getting from it.
I should watch Natsume's Book of Friends.
It's really good.
I know. I all 5 seasons or whatever are
All
rated
4
very highly.
It's getting a movie. It's getting a movie this year. Like they're not done.
All right, Rifle. What about you? What have you got?
He's got nothing.
Your mic is muted if you were talking right now, by the way, too.
Move on.
Uh-oh.
Alrighty. Must have disconnected or something. What about you, Johnny? What have you got?
So, well, that is unfortunate, but anyways, let's just continue.
That was Cat. Yeah.
Yeah, he must have cat tripped on a wire or something. I don't know. So, as most of you know, if you've been listening, I am the resident 12-year-old on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1 month, I will no longer be 12 years old. I will be 13 years old.
Woo!
So, well, it's not exactly on. The next episode will be on the 26th. My birthday's on the 21st.
Okay.
So as you know, we've had a lot of people on this podcast have nominated like some shows that they hold dear to their hearts, and then we're absolutely crushed. Like
Fuck you.
Yeah.
And Rosario Vampire. And now they're hearing that. Oh wait,
Did we get? Did we get?
He's doing a Remo.
No, I'm not doing Orima. No, fuck. I am doing the anime that got me into anime that I first considered. Like, this wasn't the first anime I watched, but the first thing I watched, which I considered an anime. I'm going to nominate Teasing Master Takagi-san.
Okay.
Which is the first anime I ever watched. And I'm ready for it to be absolutely destroyed if it gets nominated.
I
It
love
it
it.
looks kind of cute.
I like the show.
Okay. Teasing Master Takagi-san is thrown in there. Now we lost Rifle. We'll see if he's back in a second.
Gigabit,
we're
if
just
possible.
losing
My
that
Wi-Fi
five
went out.
seconds.
Okay. Rifle is
Okay.
nominating Gigabit.
Giabate.
Whatever.
Ate.
It's
Be glad.
it's
If we watch
considered
this
like a
back to
top.
back,
Yeah, like the 3 worst animes ever made. X-Arm,
What the hell?
Giabate, and Mars of
Okay.
Destruction. Yeah,
God.
the big 3.
Wow, that's gonna be terrible to watch back to back with or like 2 weeks after having to watch Pet. Pete, what you got for your nomination?
Is it called Diabolic Lovers?
That one's also just trash.
No, he typed it in our chat.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that Megalobox got second because I have nominated in the past before and I never got top 3. So I'm debating if I actually want to, but I think after watching something like Pet, I want to watch something fun, and
So you're switching up your nomination.
I'm gonna switch up my nomination and I'm gonna stick with the drifting theme. And I believe this is the first show I ever recommended on Watch Club. I'm recommending Girls und Panzer,
Yep.
and we're gonna do some tank drifting, baby.
This is the worst.
But
list
they're
we've-
anime.
Okay, yeah, this is honestly a bad list. Giabate's
This is
gonna win.
terrible.
This is just a shit post.
Girls und Panzer looks fun.
It has isn't even here, so like.
It has like a 7.5 on Val. Like it's not like
Wow, that
is
tells us
Girls in
everything.
Panzer the one where they are like it's a slice of life with a tank?
it's
With two superheroes,
it's
or-
the it's a sport where you tank battle, like a high school sport of tank battling.
So it is not what I was thinking, and now I am not voting for it.
The
okay.
genre is
who knows?
action, military, sports, and school.
Wait, I thought it was the Nazi girls, or is that the other show?
What?
No.
There's a show about Nazi girls?
I don't know. I just heard about this somewhere. I don't fucking know this.
All right,
Okay.
cool. Miles, what have you got?
Well, you know, I was thinking about re-upping, but what we're doing here, what this is apparently we're doing Mutually Assert Destruction. Rosario Vampire Season 2.
Let's go! Big, big. That is a big nomination.
I may just have to forget to vote.
Embrace the meme, Pat. It nominates something that's garbage.
Gosh.
I mean, it's gonna be Johnny's birthday. Might as well.
Give Johnny
Okay.
fitting for him.
Oh man, well that changed. You know what? I was gonna go on a nice little rant about how Netflix finally picked up something that I've been wanting to watch for months, for years in my life, and that would be the live action Rurouni Kenshin movies, because that would have been a sick thing to do for Watch Club, I thought. But no, I can't nominate that with the rest of these. I was gonna ask you guys if you'd be okay with me nominating that as well, because it's kind of like borderline anime, kind of not. Now I need to. All right, I'm literally gonna go to my plan to watch. I'm gonna sit here.
Conversely, if you do now and then, here and there, there's never been higher odds of it winning than
Really?
whatever the fuck just happened.
Because I'm in
Yeah.
that boat
Because
where
I
I want
mean,
to up it, but the problem, yeah, fuck
Is
it.
the
I mean,
problem? Is the
honestly,
problem that if
what-
it loses to this swath of shows, you will be
It's
crushed
pretty
forever?
high. Well, that's the thing. It's really high that it would lose to these, because everyone's gonna look at it and be like, "Oh, this is a shitty show. That's a shitty show. Oh, whatever. That's a good show. I don't care." And then like keep reading. I don't know. We'll do it though. Let's see. Now and then, here and there, we haven't let not having a place to watch a show stop us in the past either.
True.
So yeah, we'll see.
Cute move.
It was
So,
it was on Amazon Prime like 18 months ago. My bad.
18 months
So-
ago. When
Yeah, it was there once,
I mean, Pet is on Amazon Prime, so
and I will be watching it. I will be watching it there.
We'll see if this one is on Amazon. I'm pretty sure it is, but we'll see. So yeah, we'll do now and then, here and there. Maybe eventually someday that'll actually use legacy points. that
Pat,
it's
I
earned.
do want to say I have voted for it every single time you've nominated it.
I appreciate it.
I have the vast
nominated as
majority.
well.
Not every single time, but the vast
Yeah.
majority.
I guess so. I don't know. I guess I need to start working on Johnny, Rifle, and Has a little bit more with this. So
No,
yeah,
I nominated. No. You can. Miles can confirm. Every time I'm nominated, I've nominated so many times. I just write Pat's show.
fair enough. All right. Well, then I don't know how it hasn't
I've
won yet.
nominated
You guys there's someone, one of you is lying to me, and that's okay. We'll figure it out off the podcast. But yeah, so thank you so much for listening to us talk about Drifters, and now getting us ready to talk about Pet. Oh my God, I still can't believe I just said that.
Woo!
Pete, please take it away. And
Yeah.
wrap us up.
So, because I forgot, I'm going to say next episode is our 2-year anniversary episode, which is actually, if you made it this far, tomorrow, because we're going to be doing the Wonder Egg Priority Special. The finale, the 1-hour special airs tomorrow, so we're going to be discussing that. So if you're interested in that, check that out. And then I will also be releasing the spring 2021 review on like Saturday, because I'm going on vacation. I'm going to be in Vegas, so I'm going to be dropping an episode early. So stay tuned for 3 episodes. If you made it this far in the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, review whatever platform you watch us on or listen to us on. And our socials are in the link tree below. You can follow us on Twitter. You can join our Discord. If you like physical manga, we are affiliated with Books A Million, and they are having a buy 2, get a 3rd free. If you use the link, you help support the podcast. It's great. Other than that, thank you so much for listening. I had a lot of fun with our Drifters conversation. I hope you did as well. And we will see you in 2 weeks for the critically acclaimed anime Pet. So we will see you then.